right.
What's up?
How are you, Erin?
I'm grand. How are you, Leah?
I'm cool. So I don't know how many of you were tuning in last week and met Erin from the David Prize. And Erin, you could just kind of start us off with just a little bit about the David Prize for those that didn't see last week. And then we'll really dive into breaking down the application process.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know or who would love a refresher, the David Prize is a celebration of individuals with a big vision to make New York City better. We award 5 New Yorkers $200,000, no strings attached, every year to make that vision a reality, whatever it might be. It can be in any sector in the city. The hard requirement is that the work is based here and urgent here. And we want to see more applications from Queens. And so I'm here to pull that out, to make that happen.
Yeah. And we here at the Black Resource Network definitely want to bring some more money to Queens because we have some dynamic ideas in our group, and we want to make sure that we're providing resources on how to get money. So thank you for joining us. Last week, we kind of went into the nomination process and how to apply and what it is. So if you didn't check out last week's video, it's on our YouTube, or if you search in the group, you'll find the link to that. So if you didn't watch that, check that out, because today will make more sense when you watch it. But stick with us now. Don't go watch it now. Stick with us now. Let us knock out these questions and then go back and look at last week. And then go check out the davidprize.org so you can see the application process, which we're going to talk about right now. If you're watching this, share this video out so other people can have the opportunity to apply for this $200,000 and hear from Erin about this funding opportunity. So I'm going to go right into it. So tell me about the application process from start to finish, as if I were a winner, right? So I watched this video, then what?
So you watch this video.
Yes.
You learn about the prize.
Yes.
You're a person who already has an idea, which is important. The prize is for individuals, but we want to know about like a specific thing you're thinking about. So you apply to step 1. The open call is ongoing right now through December 21st. Step 1 is 3 substantive questions, meaning 3 questions you got to think about.
Okay.
What's your idea? Tell us a little more about it and like the concrete way you're going to do it. And then tell us why you are the person most uniquely suited to do that idea. We're really interested in like, what are you as a person? Why are you exactly the right person to do this? And then we ask a little bit about like, what borough do you live in? I know the answer for y'all.
Yes. We are all in Queens.
That kind of stuff.
Yes.
So that we can spread the opportunity. That's part of why I knew we had to work on Queens this year. So I was like, not enough. So that's the first part. Submit that by 5 p.m. December 21st this year, obviously. Okay. Then our team, we read them. We read all of those. And we initially just like rank, yes, maybe no. And then we invite folks we want to hear more from to step 2. It's that's invite only. It's a few more questions about your idea and your background and what you would do with the money more specifically, not because it's like, none of that's a disqualifier, but we want to see how you think. And so those questions are designed to pull out more of like why you're the person to do it and how you think about the vision, what is the vision, all of that kind of stuff. All of these questions, by the way, are online. We have a process page at thedavidprize.org/steps, I believe. And this is all laid out there.
Okay.
So that part of that second part of the application is due early February. We read all of those, and we develop a short list with the help of our advisors. So once we decide the top, 200-ish or so, we send those to our advisors to help really narrow in on what are the best applications and the best ideas, individuals in each sector. So our advisors do a whole lot of different things. We had 10 of them last year. We will probably have 10 by the time reading happens. We don't have 10 quite yet, but so we ask them to sort of lay it out for us. Since we're sector agnostic in terms of the prize, like we don't focus on anything in particular as far as like health or whatever. Like a lot of things could be important in New York, so we don't prioritize one or the other. But that means that we need the expertise of our advisors to see like, this is a real good idea that like no one's tried before versus there's like 10 people doing this already and it's not especially working. So they help us see what are the things, who are the people who actually are bringing the most potential to this through these applications. So they read, We talked to them.
So by December 21st, I fill out my application.
Yes.
By February is when they'll be reviewed, or they'll be completed reviewed by February.
So you'll hear back from us in January.
Okay.
Whether that's for an invitation to the second step. And then that will be due in early February.
Okay.
We read that again with our advisors, and then you hear from us in March.
Okay.
From that point, the short list of folks, we start doing our part. We start doing research, and we start interviewing people and meeting them. Okay. Last year, that was entirely virtual. That might be the same this year. We'll see what happens. Okay. We do like seeing people in their spaces when we can.
Yeah.
If there's a space, So we start getting in and reading about the work, not just talking to y'all as the applicants, but also we ask you for references and we talk to them about your work. And we also look into experts, people who you may not know, but people who would know about the space you're working in.
Right. So and what you're saying makes sense.
Exactly. It's right. Like, again, we're not experts on everything. So we got to talk to the people, find out like what's going to work, what's not going to work. And also we look into like, what kind of difference could this make in New York? Like, are there people working on this? That kind of thing. From there, and again, with the help of our advisors, we pick and announce finalists. Sometimes also we do interviews with advisors that wasn't everybody last year. We'll see.
Okay.
We're still integrating that into the process. Reminder, the prize has only existed for 2 years. Sometimes things change in media res.
Yeah.
From there, we develop a finalist list of approximately 20 up to 25 people. And all of those people will then have a final interview with the family who funds the prize. And they are the ultimate deciders of the prize. That said, a lot of the decision making does happen through the process with the expertise of our advisors and also our team. Like, we do a lot of research, like I said. So all that is to say, if you were to apply right now and you win next year, you get the money next fall. It is a long process. Very upfront about that. It's a long process.
Okay, so it's like 10 months to a year after you apply.
Exactly.
And you win, you will get your money. You get it all at one time? 2
tranches, but if you have a good reason for needing it all at once, we can hear that. I know we're going to get to this question, but for tax reasons, generally people don't want to get it all at once because it can be a bigger hit that way. So
yes. I know Jackie and Corey were talking about what this means for your taxes. Hopefully somebody tag Jackie and Corey so they can come on for that question, because I know they were talking about it.
Yeah. It is a long process, but because the prize is for individuals, we really want to take the time to get to know people. And so that's how long it takes. Yeah. That said, we try to make sure that we're not asking for, like, we spend a lot of time in the process, but we try to make sure we're not asking for any more time than we need from people as they apply. Like, there's the application process, there's an interview that's bracketed, there's a final interview, and then there are like optional things in the middle, like prep for the final interview, things like that.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, and that's in line with a lot of other funding. So I think most people are cool with that. So let's go back to actually filling out the application.
Yeah.
You have to fill something out for the first round, and then you have to fill out something else for the second round.
Yes, they're in the same place though. So we have a platform called Submittable.
Okay, yeah.
And you make an account there, you do the first step. If and when you're invited to the second step, you will get an email and you go back to the same place where you did the first step, and new questions will be there for you.
Okay.
All in the same place.
And how deep does this have to be? Like, am I supposed to get my English professor? Am I supposed to get a grant writer? How much is that? Just structurally, is that a reflection of? Yeah. So
let's talk about like deep in 2 different ways. The first kind of deep is like very beautiful language. We don't need that.
Okay.
You don't have to, like, as long as it's clear, that's the most important thing. Like, we need to know who you are. We need to understand what your idea is, and we need to understand how it fits into your vision.
Okay.
That said, it doesn't have to be like beautiful prose. Please do not hire a grant writer for this.
Okay.
Like, don't do that. Like, okay. I mean, if you really want to, you can, but like, there's truly no need to. And because it's a prize for you, we want to hear about you, the individual. It should be your words. You can have other people read it over for you if you want, if that helps. Like, I like getting other people to read over my writing, but no, it doesn't have to be fancy. Let's put it that way. That said, we do want to make sure that we understand, like, we do want to hear from you and like understand what you're trying to tell us about the context of what you're talking about. So in the first stage, it's only 3 questions. So there is a character limit, like it's not super long. So tell us what you can, be clear, and make your case.
Okay.
Don't stress over it too much.
So like, would you say like, listen, if you're spending, 4 days writing this, you're thinking too hard. Like how?
I think especially if you're someone who already has an idea, you probably know what you need to say about it. Like you don't need to like fuss over every single adjective. Like don't worry about it too much. Especially like maybe a good litmus test is like if you have a friend who doesn't know about it yet, or like somebody in your life who knows you but hasn't like heard about the things hasn't heard about all the things you're working on. If they read it and they get it, you're probably in a good place.
Then you're fine. Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So I take only 2 days to fill it out instead of 4. Sends it in. It's accepted. I go to, who is reading this? Like who is making the decision on whether I make it to round 2 or whether I win?
So there's different people at different stages.
Okay.
At the first step, it's me and the team. It's not only me.
Okay.
But we have a pretty small team. It's going to be, it was 3 people last year. It will be 3 or 4 this year, probably.
Okay.
Reading the initial applications. They're pretty short. We do read them, all of them. But we get a lot of them also. So that's why clarity is really important. Like we're making like yes and no calls, basically. Okay. After that, with step 2, the same team initially reads them, and then we pass them to our advisors who help us make calls about like who are we going to start interviewing at this point. And then from there on, it's us and the advisors. That's like where the major decision making, like it's not the winner decision, but like frankly, that's where the real decision making happens. Like we pulled out the best stuff. How do we start comparing in some ways? How do we start doing eliminating when we got a lot of good ideas?
Yeah.
And then the winners are ultimately decided by the Walentis family, who are the funders of the prize.
Okay. So you kind of narrow it down for them, and then they have the
by the time they meet everybody and do final interviews, there are no bad choices. That's the idea.
Got it. So how does the narrowing go? Like how many applications do you start with, and how does it usually happen? Oh, well, the 2 times it happened.
The 2 times it happened. So last year it was about 5,000 people in the like applying nominating process. Like because of the way that we process things, it's like hard to fully parse it out. But that's the initial bucket. From there, by the time we get to the short list, that's approximate, like the very short list, which isn't public. From like the narrowing that happens before the family meets anyone is from that initial, however many applications we get, to 60 people who we meet for interviews, 60-ish, and then 20-ish finalists.
Okay.
So, like, it's about, it's, what is that, like a 1%, something like that. It's a lot. It's a big narrowing. And like some of that is like ideas that aren't necessarily right for the prize, or individuals who aren't as close to the work as others. There's a whole bunch of things. And we always look at that through the lens of our criteria.
How does someone become a panelist? Do you take applications for that side as well, just to be a part of the review board?
Right now, it's only our team. We are always on the lookout for advisors, though, like because it's because it's pretty high volume. Like we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page for what we're reading for in terms of the criteria. But that's why we have the advisors that we have, who are like really the sectoral experts, and we rely on them to give us the context to understand like what do these ideas actually look like next to each other. Like from our perspective, like I can give an example from last year. Like last year we had like 3 or 4 really cool biking related projects that I was very excited about, and was like, this person seems like the best person to me. And then our advisor was like, no, this is the person. I was like, okay, like, that makes sense. So the advisors are like the big we're interested always in like just getting more perspectives into the prize. Another thing that I do in addition to this is just like talk to people about themes that are kind of rising up in the city and like things that are important.
Yeah.
And so that's more just like an internal process for us, but we think about that as well in terms of adding to our own context of like what's going on in New York, and therefore what should we be thinking about, what should we be paying attention to, and who should we be telling about this to make sure that we hear from those parts of the city that could really use this right now.
All right. Another big question that came up in the group is how are ideas protected? Like, we're sending in these ideas, we're not sure who's reading it, and then we don't want to see the idea happen somewhere else. And this is people are very protective of their intellectual property, rightfully so. So how does that process work?
So the first thing I'll say about that is that nothing that you give to us leaves submittable or our team without us asking you first. So we don't share anything widely. That's the first thing. The second and more broad thing is like, we don't want to do your work. We want to help you do your work. So we're not trying to take anything that you're sharing with us. Like, we're trying to make the prize happen so that the people, y'all who are in it, are better set up to do whatever you're doing. And so the short answer is like, we're not taking anybody's intellectual property. You're not signing away anything by applying.
Got it. The prize doesn't own anything. No. There's nothing like that. What about, I know some funding, and that's fine. You have to put their logo on things, or how is that? How does that work?
The prize is no strings attached. So we don't ask for anything like that. We do. I mean, some of y'all know that we're going to be hopefully talking to a winner next week. And so what we do sometimes is winners often help us like talk about the prize, and we want to elevate their work. So like there's a mutual relationship there. And we will also help funders connect, or winners connect to other funders, because that's an important thing to think about with the prize is like, it's $200,000 over 2 years generally. And that's all. And so most projects are going to need more funding after that. And the hope is that the prize can set you up for the next funding, whatever that might be. And we want to help people get there. So again, we will make those introductions if you want them.
Oh, so that you do help beyond just the money. You kind of...
It depends on if it's right for that particular winner. We're still kind of thinking about what that looks like for particular winners. Not everybody needs that kind of help or wants it, but we try to make we want to be helpful.
Okay. Oh, good. There's some questions starting in here. So we'll get to some questions in about maybe 2 minutes. I'm going to finish my set, and then I'm going to let you guys jump in to start. You can just start putting your questions in the comments, and I'll bring them up. This is a big one. How does the award affect when you're filing for taxes, your personal taxes?
Okay. So the short answer is that it is the same. It's income. And so basically, we give it to you in 2 tranches so that it's not like ultra taxed.
So it doesn't put you in a ridiculously high tax.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't jump you up like 5 steps at once.
Yes.
The other thing about it is that depending on the project, there might be different ways that folks want to receive it. So you can get it as an individual, and then it's just income. You can get it as, you can direct it through a 501c3 if you have one.
Yes.
If you have one, it still is not a grant if you do that, but it's only treated as income once you take it as salary or something like that.
Yes.
And then the third way is if you have an LLC that is wholly owned by you, you can also direct it to that, and then we can, and then the same rules apply. Like once you then take it as income, that's when it's taxed. So,
so whatever
it's going to be taxed no matter what, which is important to think about. But you do have some choices in thinking about optimizing that.
Got it.
Yeah.
And the last question from me, and I think Miss Brenda's wine glass had this question, and I remembered it. Can you use it to fund multiple projects? Can you use the $200,000 to fund a number of things?
Yes, you can. So the prize is for an individual. And so we are not going to ask you what you do. And it's no strings attached. So we're not going to ask you what you do with it, which means that if you want to use it for multiple things, you absolutely can. And we will definitely not stop you. We will not, you don't have to show us the receipts.
Okay.
That said, we do want to make sure if you're thinking about multiple ideas in the run up, when you're telling us about you and your plan and your vision and your application, make sure that it's really clear how they're all connected to the bigger vision, right? Like there's like having a lot of ideas and there's being like kind of scattershot. And so make sure that it's all like
it all makes sense.
Cohesive. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's jump out to the audience. All right, let me scroll up because people had questions.
So excited.
For the whole time. So Miss Ray Reeves wants to know, how can someone stay in the running if they are invited to the first round interview? What would disqualify them at that point, not moving forward?
Basically, not a good fit with our criteria. So the criteria really quickly, again, are New York specificity and urgency. That means like the person and the idea. So like your work is embedded here and it's important here for whatever reason. Person's a visionary. It's a good and unique idea. We really rely on our advisors with that. It's like, how does this stack up in the space? You are the right person to do it. So you've got some kind of track record of making things happen in this way. And then the final one is a true need for the funding. So a good example of like, not a hard disqualifier, but like someone who's already raised a lot of money, especially in the year just prior to applying for the prize, is probably not someone who needs the funding as much as somebody who has not raised the funding. It's not a hard disqualification, but by the time we start stacking people, once we have to start thinking about people as, you know, we're building a group of finalists, we want to make sure that the people who need it, who really need unrestricted funding, are the ones who are getting it. There's a lot of funding that isn't unrestricted that other people have more access to, so they should go get it. Also, people can reapply for the prize. Like if you don't get through the first round, like, and you're still doing the work, like we want to hear about like the perseverance. Like if you're a gritty, like intense New Yorker who's going to get it done regardless, like come back. This is an annual.
Keep going. Yeah. That I had another question. So what if someone is watching this right now and they've already applied, but now they have more insight on how to fill it out? And they say, forget that one I did last week. I want to use this one this week.
As long as you haven't hit submit yet in Submittable, you should be able to make edits. If you really need to change something and you already did submissions, you can email us at info@thedavidprize.org and we can help. Don't stress about it too much. Like, again, like don't stress about it too much. And also remember, one person per application. You can have multiple ideas, one person, one application. Got it.
Will applicants be asked to present any work? How are you going to prove that what they're saying they're actually
we do have a space in the step 2 questions to show us what you're working on. And also when we ask in the third question in step 1, why are you the person? You can give us a little bit is like, I do this, this, and this, or I have this, you know, I did this professionally. I grew up in this place, so I know it really well. You can talk about that briefly. The second round is where we ask for like, send us a link or a file that like demonstrates your work in some way and we'll look at it. And if we are interested in like, if we need to see more, we will ask you. And then also in our diligence process, we will look into it ourselves as well. Like we'll find it.
Google you, right?
Yeah. It's also totally cool if you're at the outset and you don't have the stuff started yet. Like it's optional. The idea is the prize is going to help somebody catalyze something, whether that's the very, very beginning or like moving from step 1 to step 2.
Natifa wants to know, the people who get to the finalist round, even if they're not selected, are they exposed to any connections that can get them to the next step?
The short answer is yes. The longer answer is it depends on what your idea is. But yes, we do want to make sure that so what this has looked like for the first 2 years is elevating the finalists' work. So we can help set up events, help finalists get press, things like that, if it's right for your project. And then there are other forms of support that can take. It really depends on what your project is, but the short answer is yes.
Okay. Last week you mentioned real estate is not funded. What if it's included in the idea?
So it's fine if there's like a plan to eventually get space. That's cool. The thing we say about real estate is that the main thing you need is a physical space.
Yeah.
The prize isn't really good funding for that. And part of the reason that we say that is because it's $200,000 over 2 years. Like that's not enough to do that's not good for a lease for like a project that's going to be ongoing for a long time. So this funding isn't really suited for that. So it's cool if you want to eventually have a space. You got to be working on something. There's got to be something else to it. That's like the primary thing.
Okay. We have a Facebook user here. Do you have to be 18 years or older?
No, you do not. There are no age requirements. The youngest person that I know of who applied last year was 11 years old.
Nice. How was that application?
It was cool. He definitely got to the second round.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. His mom helped him.
Good.
Yeah. So, don't, age is just a number for this.
Nice. So what if some people on this call have groups that they want to find out more information about the David Prize? I know we talked about that earlier. How would something like that work? They have large groups, 15, 20 people, the civics, the social groups and things like that. How do they get connected with the David Prize?
Yeah. So we have a presentation that we can give to like David Prize 101 for groups of people who are engaged in whatever in the community, doing the great work. The visionaries. We want to know the visionaries and make sure more people know about this. We have a form that you can fill out that I will give a link to Aaliyah to put in the group so people have it.
Yeah.
To request a presentation. We just ask a little bit about who's your group and how many people are you thinking about, and we'll get back to you about scheduling something.
Okay, that's easy.
I'd love to tell you about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So give me that link and we can put that out. So I also want to mention that next week we'll be back, but you won't be with us.
I will not, but someone else on the team and probably one of our winners will be here. So more things to be excited about.
Next week, we're going to talk to one of the winners and really, figure out who they are and what they did and how was the process for them and how are they feeling and what did they end up doing? How was it helpful and what are some tips for applying, as well as what are some tips for, when you get the money on really how to maximize the funding. So that will be part 3 for next week. So guys, if you haven't registered for next week, please do so you can hear from a winner and hear from somebody that got this $200,000, which I think is amazing because that's most of our dreams, right? To have an idea and then to get the funding. That's always the hardest part. You have the idea, you see the need, getting the money to fund it is difficult. So thank you to the David Prize for having this opportunity available for us. So if someone can just drop the link to next week in the chat so everybody can register for next week to talk to one of the winners and to talk to another guest that we may have on, I think that'll be exciting. All right, Erin, any last words on the David Prize and things we should know and anything we talked about so far?
I would say apply sooner rather than later.
Okay.
It's like there's no penalty for applying closer to the deadline, but if you know what your thing is, like write it down and commit, because once we get into reading, we're reading a lot at the same time. Like we've already started reading the ones that come in. And so it's a little hectic right now. If you can think about it and put it all together. And like I said, it's cool if you spend 2 days on it. One day people will only have to spend half an hour. That's like the dream, that people really only need to take 30 minutes to fill out this first application. But yeah, apply earlier. Why not? You know what you're about. Tell us and we want to hear about it.
Nice. So it should only take you 30 minutes to fill this out?
It's cool if it takes you longer. We try really hard to make sure that it's not something that you have to like stress over and like worry about and like fine tune every single word. Just be clear. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you're going to do.
Okay. Last one is if they don't have someone to read it over, do you guys have volunteers or anything like that, or suggestions on someone that can read it over for them?
So we can't read them over because we're like doing the outreach and stuff.
Yeah.
I would say that I think there's got to be somebody in your life who cares about your work. Maybe if you don't have anybody, what I would suggest is at least read it out loud to yourself, because it always sounds different and it will help you. Like the clarity is always it always sounds a little different when you say it out loud. Yeah. So, but also this group seems super supportive. Y'all should like
make a post and ask somebody to read it for you if you're
do a trade. I'll read yours if you read mine.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a great idea, and I think I'm gonna start to tell people to do that. You know, you guys want to meet up and talk about your ideas for the David Prize and kind of make sure they make sense. I think that's an excellent idea. I see someone here is application submission workshop. We're gonna put together an informal one with people that want to apply and just hype each other up and make sure we get the application in. I don't want people to take too much time thinking that they missed a deadline, because I've definitely been there on things where you overthink it and then you never end up doing it. So you know, we'll put together a little support team for that. But that's it. We've reached our 4:30, our half-hour mark. And today was wonderful. Thank you so much, Erin. You won't be here next week, so we just want to say thank you, especially to you, for taking the time out to come to Queens and help, bring these resources to Queens. And it is my goal to get 50 people to apply for this. I don't know where we are. If people say they're applying, hopefully they are. But keep us posted, and we can do an extra push because we really want to bring one of these winners home to Queens.
Hell yeah!
So. Let me know how you're going. Yes, I'll see you soon. We'll talk. But we will hear from the David Prize again next week for the final episode about, what did I name this? Learn about the David Prize with Black Resource Network. So, we have some people here that applied. Yeah. We got back to the network because people saying thank you, and
thank you all for being here and for being so engaged, asking great questions, and for telling other people about this. That's the hardest part, is got to tell people about the opportunities.
Yeah. Continue to tell people. You can share this video. You can go on YouTube and look at last week. And of course, sign up for next week. If somebody can drop that in the chat, I'll do that now. But that's it. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye for now.